Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going on a journey back in time to explore 10 medieval diseases that no longer exist. It's amazing to think about how far we've come with science. Vaccines and antibiotics protect us from illnesses that used to cause widespread devastation. These diseases cause so much suffering, but they're gone now. Let's dive into their history, how they affected people, and the incredible work that led to wiping them out. First up is the Black Death, a truly terrifying plague that spread across Europe, Asia and Africa in the 1300s. Imagine a world where just breathing the air could make you sick and die quickly. The Black Death, caused by a tiny bacteria called Yersinia pestis, spread through fleas that lived on rats. Entire villages were wiped out, leaving a scary silence behind. Historians believe the Black Death killed as many as 200 million people, more than any other pandemic we know about. Better sanitation, quarantining sick people, and eventually antibiotics finally stopped the Black Death's reign of terror. Next, we have smallpox, a disease that left survivors with scars. It was one of the deadliest diseases ever. Caused by a virus called variola, smallpox spread through the air and caused fever, vomiting, and painful sores all over the body. For centuries, smallpox was a constant threat, taking millions of lives. But then came an amazing breakthrough. The world's first vaccine. Developed by Edward Jenner in the late 1700s, the smallpox vaccine changed everything in the fight against disease. Thanks to vaccinations around the world, smallpox was officially eradicated in 1980. Leprosy is a long-lasting infectious disease caused by the bacterium Mycobacterium leprae. It's been around for thousands of years. Leprosy mainly affects the skin, nerves, lungs, eyes, and other parts of the body. It causes changes in appearance, disability, and sadly, people didn't understand it and were afraid of it. People with leprosy were often kicked out of their communities and forced to live in separate colonies. For a long time, people thought leprosy was incurable, something to be feared and misunderstood. But then, in the 1980s, a special combination of medicines was discovered that could cure leprosy. Today, with early diagnosis and treatment, leprosy is no longer the scary disease it once was. Now for a real medical mystery, the sweating sickness. This strange and deadly illness swept through Europe in several waves, starting in the late 1400s. People would suddenly get a fever, sweat a lot, and often die within hours of getting sick. Doctors had no idea what caused it, and everyone was terrified. Even today, we still don't know what caused the sweating sickness. Some think it was an unknown infection, others think it was something in the environment. After several terrible outbreaks, the sweating sickness disappeared as mysteriously as it arrived, leaving behind fear and many unanswered questions. Let's travel back to the year 541 AD. The Byzantine Empire, a powerful force at the time, was suddenly hit by a devastating plague, the Plague of Justinian. Named after the Emperor Justinian I, who got sick but survived, this pandemic was the first recorded outbreak of the bubonic plague, the same disease that would later cause the Black Death. The Plague of Justinian ravaged Europe, Asia and Africa for over 200 years, killing an estimated 30 to 50 million people. It had a huge impact, weakening the Byzantine Empire and changing the course of history. Next, we have ergotism, also called St. Anthony's fire. This painful and often deadly disease came from eating rye and other grains infected with a fungus. This fungus created poisons that caused hallucinations, seizures, gangrene, and even death. Ergotism was especially common in medieval Europe, where rye was a major food source. Outbreaks usually happened in damp, cold weather, which helped the fungus grow. As farming got better and people learned about the dangers of contaminated grain, ergotism became less common. Scrofula, a type of tuberculosis that affects the lymph nodes in the neck, used to be called the king's evil. People believed that if a king or queen touched someone with scrofula, they would be cured. For centuries, people lined up to be touched by royalty, hoping for a miracle. Of course, the royal touch didn't work, but it shows how desperate people were and how little they understood about the disease. With the discovery of antibiotics in the 1900s, scrofula, like other forms of tuberculosis, became treatable and preventable. The dancing plague, also known as dancing mania, is one of the strangest and most puzzling events in medical history. In July 1518 in Strasbourg, a woman started dancing uncontrollably in the street. Over the next few days and weeks, hundreds of others joined her, dancing for hours without stopping to eat or rest. The dancing plague lasted for weeks, leaving people exhausted, injured, and sometimes dead. We still don't know what caused it. Some think it was a kind of mass hysteria. Others think it might have been caused by the same fungus that causes ergotism. The English sweats were a series of mysterious and deadly outbreaks of a sweating sickness that terrified England and parts of Europe from the late 1400s to the mid-1500s. People would suddenly get a fever, headache, sweat a lot, and often die within hours. The cause of the English sweats is still a mystery. Some think it was a virus, others think it was something in the environment. The last recorded outbreak was in 1551, and the disease hasn't been seen since. The Great Pox, an early form of syphilis, appeared in Europe in the late 1400s and spread quickly, causing a lot of suffering. It caused painful sores, fever, and many other symptoms. People were afraid of it and ashamed if they got it. Unlike the Black Death or smallpox, the Great Pox didn't always kill people, but it could cause disfigurement, disability, and social stigma. Treatment often involved mercury, which was somewhat helpful, but also poisonous. Over time, as medical knowledge improved, the Great Pox evolved into the syphilis we know today, which is treatable but still a serious infection spread through sexual contact. Thanks for joining me on this trip through history. We've explored some dark times when disease was rampant and hope felt far away. But even with all the suffering and loss, we've also seen how resilient humans are, our constant search for knowledge, and how science can overcome huge challenges. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more interesting videos.